Welcome back to the podcast today and today's episode. And today I welcome Carla to the show with me. And I'm really looking forward to this particular subject. We were just chatting before the show, so I think we're going to have a very valuable, I know we're going to have a very valuable conversation today. So, Carla, first of all, interesting to hear about your story in and your philosophy. Often in this day and age, there's very much this like I know in the UK and I know with lots of friends in the US, there's quite a hustle, hustle, hustle mentality. We're like really, really trying to make things happen. We're really trying to push. And I know you've created something called the no try philosophy. So that would be a really great place to start to just hear a little bit about what is this no try philosophy.
So the no try philosophy is really a movement to eliminate the word try because there's a very big difference between what we think trying means and what it really means. And we are trying, like all of the people you're talking about, at breakneck speed to try to do this and try to do that. We're all trying to do so much. And what's happening is a whole lot of nothing because trying is in reality it's a half-hearted attempt or an effort. It's a mental activity where doing is a physical action. So there's a whole lot that I just said right there, but with relation to everybody trying to do so much, that's a result of we want everything in our lives right now to be better, to be faster, to be easier. I mean, that's how it's all happening for us. And trying has been the modus operandi. And I think when you do what my motivation is to get rid of the try, and when you really focus on what is that going to take to do it, you slow
Mm.
down and you focus and you accomplish more.
It's very, yeah, it's very interesting. You're taking me back to a Tony Robbins analogy, and he had this woman who was he was really trying to break through to. She had a very big barrier. I remember he was like try and like pick the chair up, and then and then she was like picked it up, and he goes, okay, so you picked it up. Then she wasn't, and then he was like, okay, now you're not doing it. You're not, and then she was trying, and she like just didn't understand it, and it just wasn't doing anything. So. That's
Yeah.
really interesting because so many times I've heard in workplaces and careers, it's like, yeah, I'll try and do that, and then there's a completely different result when I've heard even myself or someone else say, I'm gonna do that. It's gonna be done by then, as opposed to yeah, I'll try, and it kind of goes on for a while.
Exactly. Business leaders, the CEOs, the chairmans, the directors, the presidents, you don't get to the top by trying. They're
Mm,
not the guys that are going to try to turn in that report or try to turn the company around or try to, redistribute the whatever. They're the doers. They're the action takers. And, unfortunately, it's the guy in the board meeting that says, okay, I'll try to have that report to everybody by tomorrow morning. But by tomorrow morning, you don't have it. And I mean, if you'll allow me, I can jump around a little bit here.
yeah, sure.
So, beginning with what do we believe trying to mean is we believe trying is taking action. We believe we're doing when we're trying, but in reality, we're not. And there's the try test, the Tony Robbins. You're either picking up the chair or you're not. I do, you're either touching your nose or you're not. And let's see what trying looks like. There's no action for trying.
Mm,
So, what we believe trying means and what it actually means are two different things. So, in the dictionary, trying says an attempt or an effort to do something. But in reality, trying is what it really means is it's a half-hearted attempt or an effort. It's a way of procrastinating. It's another way of procrastinating. So, when my son says, you know, he just moved to Texas. Yeah, I'm going to try and find a dentist. What that means is he's not going to find a dentist. Is he's going to desperately need one when he has a horrible toothache and then he'll go get one. So, but he's not going to say, I'm going to procrastinate, mom, and I'm going to put it off. It's easy just to say, I'll try to. And there's so many reasons why we try. And the number one reason is because we're taught to try. Think about this. We're
Mm.
taught from a really young age. Our parents taught us try harder, try better, give it a try your best
Oh, you
as a
tried.
means try to motivate us, and their parents taught them, and so it's like this generational heirloom that we've been given. So we believe that trying is a brave and noble thing to do, and that it's going to move the mountains for us. But we try because we want to. I mean, it's just loaded with this beautiful bag of excuses. Okay, well, I tried, but we
Mm.
can lean on an excuse if we don't do something. I tried, but you can blame somebody, but they didn't come through for me, so I couldn't. So excuses and blame. And then there's no accountability. Think about it. Like if someone says to you, I'll try to call you back, or I'll try to come to your fundraiser, and they don't show up, you can't get upset with them because they didn't commit to coming. They didn't say, I'll be there. You weren't counting on them. They just said they would try. So, I mean, that's just a few of the reasons. I'll throw in one more. We women more than men have a difficult time saying no. So we'll offer to try. Okay, I'll try to do that for you. I'll try to be there. I'll try to help you. When in reality, we know we're not going to do this or we don't want to do it. But trying is like this nice thing we can throw. And that in itself is loaded with a whole bunch of stuff that has a byproduct effect in our lives. So anyway, so what it means to try versus what we think it means, and then why we do it. There's like the basis for the whole conversation, right there.
One thing I kind of just picked out, well, I picked out a few things there, but one thing she just said there about like using the word try when you really want to say, it's almost like you want to say no, but trying's like the polite version. That's almost like a, so are you saying it can be used in kind of people pleasing cases in some
Yeah.
circumstances? Yeah.
Yeah. And you just said
Mm.
something really important. You said it's the polite thing to do. But if you think about it, it's not polite. What what I
It's
think people
nice, maybe
It's
is a better word
no,
than
same
nice.
thing. It's
Yeah.
not nice and it's not polite. It's none of those things because when you say you're going to try, the person would rather you be honest with them and say, you know what? No, I'm not going to make it. I already know I'm going to be exhausted on Friday night, but thank you for inviting me. Or thanks for inviting me to your event, but it's not really something I'm interested in. That way you don't count on them. You don't have it in the back of your mind that they may show up or they may help you. I think it's much kinder and more polite and more generous to offer honesty. And I think the person that you're throwing your try at would appreciate an answer one way or the other.
So it's, yeah, I guess how I understand it is, or for me, it's a perceived politeness or nice, but in reality, it's not. And I always look at the difference between, for me, nice and kindness. Kindness is sometimes leading with it is like living with that truth as well, which actually, like you're saying there, is better to be honest and say,
Absolutely.
I I'm not able to do this. No, as opposed to I'll try, which isn't, again, that takes the accountability away as well. So like, as you were touching on, so love that point.
Mm.
Carla, it'd be
Yeah.
really interesting to know, like, was there a moment in your life, or maybe there were moments in your life, which got you into really taking the word try, which I'm now removing from my dictionary. You've already inspired me. Alongside the word I was saying before the show, the word busy, I'll try and bam. Oh, there we go.
Oh,
Oh,
let's hear the correction.
I am banning the word busy.
I
There we
love
go.
it.
See, there we go. There's a good example for you listening right now. So the words busy and try are banned. So for you, what was it that kind of got you thinking about this word try in your life that you're like, I need to remove it?
Well, honestly, I feel like I was born this way.
All right.
Just it's a mentality that I've always embodied, but I wasn't really aware of what was happening. I had a an unconventional childhood. I grew up in New York. My father was a gambler and not a good gambler. So our lives, fluctuated between having and not having, and we're leaving, we're coming, we're staying, we're going. And so, sometimes you're put in situations where there's no option to try. You kind of have to just land on your feet and survive and go. So I was raised just really with this be, do, have, not try, hope, wish. But really, when it clicked in was as probably in my late teens, early 20s, I started writing in a book, and I would write once a year. It was a journal, but I only did it once a year. And in that journal, I called it my magic book. And I would write down, first, I started with gratitude. I thanked the universe for everything that was happening in my life at the moment. And just great, I think gratitude is really important to begin any endeavor that you have. You have to be grateful for your ability to do things and what you have in the moment. But then I would write down not things that I wished for, was going to try to do, or hope to have. I wrote down, I will have a song in the top 10. I will have a platinum record. I will find my partner. I will buy a home. And they didn't all start out that way in my late teens, early 20s, but things started becoming true. I would read back and go, oh my gosh, like almost every single thing in this journal from last year has happened for me. Why? And I honed in on the language. There was never a try, never a hope, never a wishing for, never a want. It was having, being, and doing. And so then I kind of started doing workshops on the power of writing things down, that they become tangible once you get them out of your head and onto paper, which makes it something real. In your head, things are not the same as when you kind of get them out and say them. It's different when you're thinking something as to when you actually like write it down and see it. And that just really just kind of just kept getting streamlined into it's this trying mindset that is what's keeping us. And all that in addition to whenever I hear someone say the word, I have a visceral reaction. I feel it. I want to jump across the table in a restaurant if I hear someone say, "Well, I'm trying to whatever." I want to get in front of them and say, "Don't try to do that. Do that. Take that word out." And I've done it. I've done it in the real world where I have gone up to people, and you can see on my Instagram, I'll just go up to strangers and talk to them about their thoughts about trying. But anyway, so that's really what started my journey, was just as a young child growing up. I probably wasn't afforded the opportunity to try sometimes. And then as a young adult, really noticing the language that I used to achieve my goals and be successful.
Oh wow! And like writing them down, and that journal sounded like a big moment in your life as well. Like writing
Yeah.
down, I will be this, this, this. Yeah, I wanted to touch on that because I know a lot of us can have like hopes and dreams, and it's like at the start you can get very excited. You're like, oh, I want to make this money from this relationship. I don't know, some other ambitious goal. Maybe it's a health target or something like that. And then a lot of times, definitely been there many times myself, we lose track of it. And you've just pointed out like the language part and actually being very intentional with your words. Not you're not trying, you're gonna be. Is there any other way you found use that has helped you really install the feeling, or was it just kind of writing it again and again?
Well, it was only writing it one time. It was
Okay.
in January. I wrote in that book in January. one time and I put the book away. I never read it back. There are all these different theories on creative visualization and, write it down and read it every day. For me, once it's down into the universe in a physical, tangible form,
Mm,
it goes to work. But I think starting where we are right now, to everybody listening to your podcast, become aware, be consciously aware of what it means to try and why you're doing it. And just like you're going to eliminate that word from your vocabulary. That's all we really need to do is understand what it means to try and then define why you're doing it and then replace it with doing. I'll tell you a little story, and this
yeah,
just
go for it.
shows you, pardon me?
So I said, yeah, go for it. Love to hear a
Okay,
story.
it really illustrates the power of how quickly this works. It works immediately. I mean, this could change your life in the next hour. Okay, maybe there's someone you've been trying to call, okay, or trying to make a doctor's appointment, and you say, you know what? I'm not going to try anymore. I'm not trying to make that appointment. I'll try, which is basically procrastinate, right? Do it. Make that phone call. That could be life changing for you, right? Make that doctor's appointment. So here's the story. I love this story so much. So my kids I would drop them off at the bus at the park every day, same time every day. And I would see this guy walking around the park with these giant headphones on. And I was in the music business, so I was very curious. Like, I wonder what he's listening to. And every day, walk around, walk around. So one day, he had the headphones off and he was kind of fiddling with them. And I'm like, now's my chance. So I went up to the guy and I'm like, hey, I see you here at the park. I'm curious, what are you listening to? And he said, I have a really hard time with motivation. There's a lot of things I'm trying to do, and I listen to
Ooh.
these podcasts. I'm listening to a guy named Johnny right now. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh,
He
he might
he
be.
he could have been, hopefully. He was motivating. So didn't know the guy. And I looked at him and I said, tell me something that you're trying to do right now. And he said, well, I'm trying to get back into swimming. I was a swimmer. I need to exercise. We have a new pool at the YMCA. And I said, why don't you stop trying to go swim and go swim? That was it. And he looked at me and I thought, okay, I'm never going to see him here again. I've just ruined the guy's beautiful, blissful park experience because he thinks I'm crazy. 24 hours later, same place, same time, drop the kids off at the bus. This guy is yelling across the park, waving his arms, waiting for me. And he said, I didn't try. I did it. I swam. And he was elated. Okay. I interviewed him for my book. He's still swimming. He's changed his life. He's changed careers. It's that instant. I mean, he was thinking about it, worrying about it, wondering about it, looking for help, seeking motivation, when all he had to do for that particular thing was stop trying to go swim and go swim. It doesn't get simpler than that.
Oh, that's amazing that he went and did that. It's
Isn't
a
that
bit like,
great?
yeah, it's a bit like when I used to use the T word before this episode, and it was I was, yeah, the word trying to sort my emails. So I am going to sort my emails. At those kind of examples when you're like putting it off, and yeah,
Yeah.
I guess you can't. The question I've asked, like, for people, because someone might be thinking right now, well, if I say I'm going to commit to something, but I've got all these things to do, and I've got all these things to do. I guess it's not. It's saying like I'm not going to do this. It's saying I'm going to do it at a later date. Is that what you're saying? Rather than I'm going to try and do this? Because just thinking of, like, a lot of us can get overwhelmed. We've got all these tasks to do, and now if we're going, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this, rather than I'm trying. How would you approach that?
Okay. Yeah, all the overachievers that are like, I'm not going to try now, I'm doing them all. Well, the first thing I want to say is that tr not trying doesn't guarantee success. Okay. But doing will guarantee a better chance at success.
Mm,
And when you tell your brain, I'm going to try to do this, it goes, the brain, our mind, it takes direction from us. And it knows I don't have to do it. It goes this path where, I don't have to do it. I'm just gonna, I can put it off. I don't have any accountability. I can use excuses and blame. I can try forever. I can stay on the path of I'm going to try to get that done forever. There's no time limit. But when you say, I'm going to do this now, it goes this way, where there's a beginning and an end. Your brain knows how to do something. And
mm,
it's a mindset. It's a totally different mindset from trying. And yeah, on the path of doing, you may stumble, you may fall, you may go backward, but you're more likely to fall down and get up and keep doing, and fall down and get up and keep doing. When you try and you fail, maybe you'll try and fail a couple of times and then you give up. We are more likely to give up when we're trying to do something than when we tell ourselves we're doing this. It's a conviction, it's a strong mindset, it's a determined action. So for those people, in there are a lot of helpful hints, and these are all very standard, but you have to prioritize. If you don't have a list of priorities, I refer to something in my book called the Eisenhower Matrix. Have you ever heard of it?
I've not personally, no.
The Eisenhower matrix is basically four squares, and it's priority. You're able to prioritize. This is what I have to do. This is what I can wait to do. This is what I can eliminate. This is what I can schedule. So use tools to, if there's five things you've been trying to do and not doing, just prioritize them. Okay, this is the one I'm doing right now, and stop right there and do that. And then, by the way, when you do something and get it done, it's so liberating. You can't even believe how much time we spend in our heads thinking about, worrying about, wondering about. It's exhausting. So we
Mm,
get mentally exhausted where we don't even want to try to do that first thing, let alone do the first thing. So pick one thing and do that thing. And then you're going to be like, wow, that was so much easier than I thought. And now I have all this time and energy. I'm going to do the next thing. And it just gets easier and easier. It's like practicing anything and developing that muscle.
mm. Yeah, I like that. Can kind of think of the Stephen Covey method as well. Like, remember what book, The Seven Habits of Highly Effective
Highly
People, and
successful.
yeah, he's got a similar matrix of that one. Like in terms of so looking at like your priorities, but yeah, staying away from the word try. And what also came up for me, I was when you've been talking as well, is like when you're looking at goals, going back a little bit to goal setting and saying I'm going to try, like say let's use a financial target for example, which is a classic, like maybe it's in business, maybe it's in outside of business or like in your career or something. I want to make, you say like I want to make like £250,000 or dollars like this year. You go, I'm going to try and make that. There's almost a like it's like the easy route, like let off, but actually if you say I'm going to make that, it's like there's almost a little bit of fear that can come up with that, because it's like you've just like been accountable and you're actually saying it. So I can see how the word try as well could be always be put there as a defense or safety mechanism. That's kind of what resonated with me on that as well. I don't know if you.
Oh, 100%. It's like jumping into the deep end. Just that example you said, yeah, okay, I'm going to try and make $250,000 this year. So if you don't, whatever, and you can also list 25 reasons why it didn't happen, excuses, blame, right? But and especially if you pronounce it to the world, right? Oh my gosh, I'm going to make $250,000 this year. You have accountability now to yourself. You have accountability to other people. You won't be able to really lean on the excuses and blame. They won't even come into play. So when people that are making things happen, they don't have time, by the way, to talk about it. They don't have time for excuses. They don't have time for blame. They are doing. They're spending their time making it happen. I work really hard. I can see why people opt to try because it's easy. Doing is difficult. Doing is exhausting. Doing is scary. Doing is unpredictable. You have to be really brave to do something, and it's worth all the effort. It's so much easier to do than it is to try. That's the big, surprise.
It sounds like
It's
you have
easier
to.
in the long run.
Yeah, it sounds like it. You got to be willing to, and also got to be willing to face potential rejection or fears or failures along the way, and then you keep going as well. Whilst the trying can kind of put the buffer up to that a little bit, but ultimately not give you the results.
Absolutely. Fear is also one of the big reasons that fear of failure is a really big reason we try instead of jump in and say, no, I'm doing it. We don't want to look stupid. We're worried about what other people will think of us. We're afraid of failure. Failure is the best thing that can ever happen to you. It's the greatest thing because if you're failing, you're learning what doesn't work. And it's like an education, built-in education. So if you're not failing, it means you're not learning how to do it the correct way. And and I challenge anybody that, if you saw somebody taking brave, bold, determined steps to do something and they failed, I think you would encourage them and you'd admire them and you'd be proud of them for doing this and be willing to fall down and learn and fail and keep going, right?
Yeah, and I guess just for the listener, like my perception of someone who might mock that, my hallucination would be that person's probably got their own insecurities and wounds that they use the word try and won't go and take the action because I know some people are a bit like, oh well, I tempted and I was taking the action and then someone mocked me and then I'm put off, and that'd be my hallucination of anyone because unfortunately that does happen, of anyone who's kind of like knock you down of that they've maybe got their own wounds or insecurities from my own model of the world anyway.
Absolutely. Well, one thing I said earlier was the people that are doing, like say you have something in your mind that you want to do, not try to do, keep it to yourself. In the book, I have like helpful tips and tricks, and one of them is the power of silence. And I have used this my entire life. So if there's something you want to do, don't talk about it. I mean, if maybe there's someone that can help you in your journey, like an expert or a teacher, you can share it with them because they're on your team and they're going to help push you forward. Anybody else doesn't need to know. Many people in my life had no idea that I was pursuing a book deal. There was no need to share that with anyone. I'm the kind of person that you'll know when I have signed the deal with the publisher and the book's coming out. And there were people that were like, wow, I had no idea you were even doing that. And that protected me from the people that might make a snide comment or say, wow, like you're really writing a self-help book, that market is saturated, or you've never written a book before, you can't do it, you're not a doctor. There are so many things. I told myself those things, but I can quiet my own mind, but I didn't need anybody else, tearing me down. So you keep your power. You hold all of that energy to yourself when you really keep the power of silence. It's a very important tool.
Mm. And that's a really good one to think about as well because yeah, just doing rather than talking about it and then thinking about it. It's or the trying. It's actually doing it. Coming back to that as well.
Yeah, and protecting yourself from those people that might make fun of you or stifle you. There's actually a great story. Have you ever heard of Spanx?
Yeah, Sarah Blakely. Yeah.
They're like, so I read an interview with her or watched an interview when she created Spanx in her basement. And she told her family, I'm working on something down there and I'll let you know what it is when I'm ready. Never uttered a word about it. And finally, when she came up with her first product, she was in her kitchen and she told her husband and children what she was doing. And predictably, they're like someone else is going to come up with that. Like a big company is going to take your idea, and that's kind of a silly idea. There's already something like that. And she said, and if she had listened to them before she created her product, she never would have gone forward. She
Oh,
never
wow.
would have had the wherewithal to keep going. So I think that's really powerful. You could Google that talk, but that's the power of silence right there. It's just you keep that energy to yourself, and it is kind of a superpower. I think of not trying, like when you get this information and you say, you know what, I'm not going to try anymore. I'm doing this. It's a superpower that you have. It's like this magic elixir that goes over your intentions, and it's it's incredible.
Oh, wow. I'm surprised she didn't tell her husband, Jesse Itzler, because he came up with a he came up with a crazy way to start a jet company, and so I imagine he'd invite any kind of idea. But no, that's I like that. And then yeah, I know I've never heard that part of it. I've seen it on Grant Cardone and Tony Robbins stages many times. Yeah, and that's a good one. Just keeping it
Yeah,
to yourself. I
she
love that.
did.
I love that, Carla. So, Carla, as we kind of as we wrap things up today, is there a final point that you might want to share with us, or maybe conclude with anything we've talked about today? And also for the listener, I know you've got plenty of resources. You're offering a lot to people. Where can they find you, and where's the best place for that?
Okay. So I think something I'd like to leave everybody with is number one, we all try. We all try, every one of us. Even Tony Robbins tries, okay? There's got to be some part in his life where he's trying to do something. Um, and the problem isn't that you aren't trying hard enough. I'm sure whatever it is you want to do, you're trying really hard to make that happen. The problem is that you're trying in the first place. So I want to leave you with buy my book because the rationale and the reason and the consciousness of why we're trying is in there, and then you'll be able to be aware so that you can remove it. So really become aware of your try and where you're trying and what you're doing, and remove that. Yoda said, "Do or do not, there is no try." We all know that from Star Wars, right? But no one has ever said why. Why is there no try? This is why. These are all the reasons why trying is not effective. It just holds you back. It's a barrier between having what you want. And sometimes it's just as simple as eliminating that word and replacing it with doing. It'll change your whole set of actions. Um, you can find me. My website is stop-trying.com. And if you sign up, you'll get a free Try Baby test. We didn't even talk about Try Babies, but it's a way to determine, are you a Try Baby? Are you someone in your life that's trying, complaining about, talking about, worried about all the things you are trying to do? So that'll kind of be a nice starting place to determine, where you're trying. Um, I'm on Instagram. I do pretty much a couple of times a week really good hits of interviews and advice and stories. It's Carla Ondrasik on Instagram. And my website, as I mentioned, and TikTok, and just keep looking out for me everywhere because I'm really bound and determined to share my message with as many people as I can.
Amazing, Carla. No, thank you so much for coming on today, and we'll be sure to link all that up. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Johnny. I just so enjoyed talking to you. You brought up some great thought-provoking things for me as well.
Of course, got me thinking as well. And we found a new word today, so that's all good.
We did.
So that concludes our episode for today. And remember to lead with your heart and not with fear.